Hey Kerbal's face fans, how's everybody doing? I'm not sure when you're watching this, but it's Halloween for me, so happy Halloween. And as you can see here, I am messing with Mo asteroids. Or at least trying to. So what I've caught here is a E-class asteroid. The biggest ones. And as such, the biggest pain in the butt to move. So as you can see here, I have a rather large contraption stuck to it. Huge fuel tanks with atomic engines or atomic rocket motors. So after trying a bunch of different ways to potentially do this, I found this is the one that's actually working. The rest kind of sucked and didn't really do what I was wanting them to do. What I'm doing here is I've got four clamps in front of four engines, which I'm then using to steer this rocket or the rock around. So what I'm doing is I'm using the limiter to increase or decrease the thrust on more of one side than the other in order to steer it. I'm losing this thing, but you know, this is kind of what I'm trying to do here. So I've captured it. It's on a massively eccentric trajectory, and I'm trying to flatten it out so that it actually goes around and I can build a space station on it, and then I can fly to it and dock stuff. But the actual maneuvering of it is a lot easier said than done, especially when it's this big and this difficult to maneuver. The thing is, with the smaller rocks, you can land on it with one grappling hook, free the pivot, line up to the center of mass, and fine, you can do that. That's not difficult. But with these really big ones, nothing that has one clamp can really hold them so that you can steer them around. So this is why I came up with this method. So since I have 4 clamps on there, this thing is solidly onto the rock. And I put the rocket engines as far out from each other as I possibly could so that the limiter would actually do something. So I found out that for the most part, these are the ones that are more towards the center, these are more outside. So in this case, for example, I'm running this one 100% because I needed to go up. It's actually not even doing it fast enough, so I'm going to cut this one down a little bit. And you can see I'm also off to the side, so I'm limitering this one to 0 while this one burns full speed. But I'm already getting pretty close to being where I need to be. This is the one that I'm losing, and I'm not exactly sure why. I was doing a pretty good job with it before. But let's take some drastic measures. That one's more in the center. The way that I tackled this rock specifically, to keep it centered, this one has to be at about 62. And that bottom one at about 70 something. So I want to put this one on already so that I stop turning left. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it 100% because I know that I'll actually make it turn right to kind of counter steer. And it kind of feels like I'm driving a big huge boat. I have to think ahead, and the things I make don't make that big of a difference. Okay, so there you see, now that I've cut this engine, we're aiming up a lot more, so I don't want it to fly past. Since this one's supposed to be at 70 to go straight, having them both running at 100% still has me going pretty well. And with a setup kind of like this, no, I'm not using SAS, I'm not using RCS fuel because I don't have any more. But with this, I am able to kind of steer it. So now that I have it sort of where I want it, I'll start to try to center it again. So since this one's normally it's center at 70, putting it at 40 should stop it from rotating up so much. And this one's still pushing me off to the side. Let's do that. And this way I can slowly but surely chase my node around. Should stop moving up here in a second because only that engine's pushing. Nope, still went past. This is the one that's surprising me. I'm having a really hard time running this engine at all without it wanting to list to the right. And I did have the center of mass targeted when I docked this thing, but I mean, you can see how much bigger it looks over here, how much bigger it looks up here. Well, with this limiter technique, you can, you know, keep doing your burns and keep doing the steering. So that's one thing I wanted to show you guys. If you guys want to capture the really big ones, something like this is probably what you're going to need to do. And then you very slowly and carefully steer with your limiters on the engines. The further out you go, the better it is. This isn't that far out, but it's good enough. I'll get it done. My goal here, now we're moving back down again, so let's put this one on somewhere. Let's put it there. Alright. My idea with this is I will, if someday, put it on a equatorial orbit, the right way around Kerbal, at about 200 kilometers. I'll build more of these and keep taking them up there and keep steering this thing to where it needs to be. Now I'm going too far down, so I'm going to put that one back at 100%. And this is how this game is going to be played out for a while. It's going to take several of these ships. It's going to take a lot of slow, controlled burning. Now we're really going down. And we're already turning that way pretty well. Okay, so I'll put that one here. And you guys can kind of see how this is going to go. I'm going to probably spend days doing this. If you want to know which way you're moving, or which way the momentum is shifting, you can always just look at how the stars are being shifted. You see I'm already going past that. And that way I'll be able to see which way my velocity is changing. So that's already stopping. Okay, so let's stop the side-by-side for a little while. The side-to-side. Okay, anyway. So yeah, this is how I'm doing this. I'm going to stop messing with this for now. This is definitely a long-term project. But if I can get a flat trajectoried, you know, E-class asteroid orbiting Kerbal, that'll be a lot of fun. I can build a huge space station around this. And then whenever I fly my SSTOs up, whenever I'm doing something else, they'll dock onto the massive station that I build around this. For now, I'm just going to let it keep drifting the way it's drifting, because it's actually going right towards the vector that I need. And then just cheat and use time acceleration, and then go back to base. The other thing that I've been working on since I started this, since I started designing ships in this patch, has been SSTOs using the new parts. Now, using the new parts is not a necessity. The game didn't change enough to make any of the old designs obsolete. Like I said before, the tanker still works. And I actually tested the shuttles that I did from the quick build. I actually kept them. You know, these, the pieces on them still work, the aerodynamics still work. Even though the wings have changed, they line up. The ones that are weird, I don't know if I have any that still have that, but the ones that turned out weird are the ones that were using the small control wheel. But most of these weren't, so they haven't made any difference. See, the worst case scenario is this. You see how the spaces don't quite line up? That's where you might have to correct stuff every now and then. This is a very, very small fix. You can fix that pretty easily. The other one is, of course, the small control wheels. I had to re-put together the tanker for that reason. But after I replaced the control wheels on it, it worked just fine. The air hogging still works fine. Everything works pretty much the same as it used to. See, on this one, the only thing I had to replace was these. It was looking really weird with big, huge spaces with a little tiny one there. But after I did that, I've flown this into space a couple times and it works fine. I'm probably going to put a docking clamp on the nose of this and go refuel that thing that I have moving the asteroid, so I can just keep using that ship and not have to throw that away and fly another one. I'll just fly a tanker out there to refill it. But anyway, new parts. So the first thing I was playing around with is, you know, making sure they don't look like SF-71s. And boy, does this one not. This is a 2-passenger shuttle, fully docking capable. I love how much RCS fuel these two things have, so I don't have to put on RCS tanks. It's not really an air hog, because we're not stacking intakes on each other. But this is 3 shot cones and, sorry, 4 shot cones and 2 radial engine bodies. So this thing burns in the way upper stratosphere. I mean, this thing burns really high. And you know, it can come back, it has the drone body. And even though it doesn't look like what you'd think of a plane, it's not bad. What I've also found is that the way the aerodynamics work now, it's easier with compound wings and with tails, as you can see here, to make a plane that doesn't have to have canards in the front. Because in real life, how often do you see a plane with canards in the front? What is it, like that French plane, the Mirage, is like one of the few I've ever seen. Other planes that have canards, like the F-14, have them in the back. And for some reason in Kerbal Space Program, because of the way the physics work, we always had to put canards in the front. Well, now with this new patch, I've found that you actually don't have to. If you play your cards right and balance it right, let's cut down the drag. I'm closing all the shot cones. These planes can actually take off pretty low speed and keep good control without having to have canards in the front. So this one has 4 canards in the back, 2 for attitude control and 2 as rudders, and it still flies pretty good. So with the new parts, not 100% necessary to have canards in the front, and that's good. I like that. So here's one of the planes that I've made. Now I was also thinking about, well, when I have that asteroid in orbit and I put all those habitats like I had on the last one, because the last one was, I think, a B class. It wasn't that big. So I decided to, you know, scrap that one and go for broke, you know, find the biggest asteroid I could. And I think the biggest is the E class. They're the huge kind. So that's what I'm trying now. I'm trying to turn an E class into a sort of hotel. But I decided I needed a passenger liner. So based on this one, which was very successful and very easy to fly, I mean, this thing made it into space or in orbit with more than half of its fuel. It's really, really efficient. It gives you the efficiency of an air hog with a plane that can't actually be called an air hog. So based on that one, I decided to make another one, but that could carry passengers. So I ended up making this little guy right here. I was impressed how plane-like it is. This one really looks like a plane. It almost reminds me of like an SSTO Learjet or something. So this is, again, it has the pro body so it can come back by itself. 2 guys in the cockpit, 4 guys here in the passenger cabin, which the lights turning on and off I've linked to the outer lights. It is docking capable. It does have about as much RCS as the other one does. Has some good RCS thrusters for docking. And surprisingly enough, it can get into space off of 1 engine. Now, since I didn't have that nose cone with the additional shot cones, what I did is what I told you guys I was going to do before. I put in nacelles behind the radial engine body and the 2 shot cones in the front. So that gives us 6 intakes for 1 engine. This is all the rocket fuel I have, is this section right here. Plus, of course, these little ones here, because I realized I was a little short. But for the most part, the rocket fuel is back here. And I don't have any dedicated jet fuel tanks. I'm just going off of the 40 units that each one of these side things gives me. And, of course, I put some wind sections to cover up all the hoses and struts and whatnot, so it looks pretty cool. And I really like the way it looks. I mean, it really does look like a jet plane, you know. No front canards, no lifting bodies, a big old compound wing, which I had to strut so it wouldn't shake. And this thing actually flies really, really nice. Now this one's not quite as sparing with its fuel. I get it into space, and I get it into orbit, and I can get it to either dock or deorbit, but the flights that I've had with this thing, it's been dry. Here's the lights, as I said, they're all linked. Haha. Of course, we're going to shut down the shot cones and the nacelles for now. And like I said, with the wing placement, you know, close to where the lifting surfaces are here and in front of these, allow us to take off relatively easily. We're not going to have to fly to the end of the runway, of course. Even with 1 engine, it can still hold a climb at a little over 40 degrees. And since it is 6 intakes for one jet engine, it'll fly picking up speeds to well over 30 kilometers. And I've gotten it to about 1550 of meters per second, which means that it only needs to fly, another about 600 meters per second faster on rockets to get up there. If you guys do stuff like this, the math on the excess jet fuel is pretty simple. So like for example, the nacelle and the radial engine body all have 40 units of fuel, right? Well, there's 4 of them. 4 times 40 is 160. I look at my total liquid fuel, I have 475. 475 minus 160 is 315. So when this reads 315, I know it's time to switch over to rockets no matter what altitude I am, so that I don't end up with extra oxidizer. And that way you can put things that look like planes that aren't particularly complicated into orbit. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. That's what I've been developing with my time here in 0.25. Again, I want to thank you guys a lot for watching and remind you guys to fly safe.